All animals have distinct ways of giving birth. Depending on their species, babies can come from a female or male, and the process of laying and hatching eggs varies widely, from frogs that give birth to their offspring through their mouths to cichlids that hold fertilized eggs in their mouths. We will discuss some of the most terrifying animal births that you haven't seen before, so watch on. One of them is the giraffe, which gives birth standing up. Their gestation period is between 15 and 16 months. This long period helps the calf develop enough to start walking immediately. The giraffe reproduction process starts when a male drinks female urine to determine if she is in heat. During labor, the mother stands and pushes her calf out. The baby emerges from her and drops to the ground with a loud thud. The fall can be around 6 feet high. Don't worry about the force because the baby will be fine. This allows the umbilical cord to break at birth. This baby weighs around 100 to 500 pounds and is already 6 feet tall. The most shocking part about this is that giraffe babies grow up to 2.5 centimeters every day during their first week, and their skin bleeds by the time they reach 1 year. The next one is the Suriname toads, which give birth out of their backs. Suriname toads are aquatic animals that live in slow-moving water sources like moist leaf litter and rainforest pools. They can be found in eastern Trinidad and Tobago and the Amazon basin. When a male Suriname toad finds a willing partner to mate with, he will hold her on her back with his arms in a position called amplexus. Both of them will somersault through the water for hours until the female releases hundreds of eggs. The male then fertilizes the eggs and pushes them onto her back. Skin will grow over them to protect them until they hatch. After about 7 days, the baby toads squirm out of holes in the protective skin and start their lives in the water. This toad's birth process isn't the only weird thing about it. These amphibians have long fingers that end in 4 star-shaped sensory lobes that inspired their other common name, the star-shaped toad. Also, one of the animals that gives birth in an extremely unusual way among the mammals is the platypus. The female produces offspring by laying eggs instead of just giving birth. They build burrows and lay their eggs there. The eggs gestate for 2 weeks, after which the animals incubate them for another 10 days. Within that period, each tiny baby hatches from the egg with the help of a sharp egg tooth, a horny spike on their nose that is made from keratin, the same material as fingernails, that later falls off. Like all mammals, monotreme mothers produce milk for their young. But unlike other mammals, monotremes like the platypus, their milk oozes out of the mammal's gland ducts and collects in grooves on their skin. And this is where the nursing babies suck from it, from tufts of fur, while being protected in the burrow for another 3 to 4 months. Platypuses usually become fully grown and sexually mature around 18 months after birth. Studies show that some platypus live for up to 20 years in the wild and 23 years in captivity. Despite their abundance, little is known about these animals in the wild because both sexes avoid each other in the wild, except during mating. Furthermore, African cichlids do reproduce unbelievably. Fish are known to have a huge diversity of birth types. Some give birth to live young offspring, and some lay eggs. The unusual thing about cichlids is the way they raise their young. They are known as mouth brooders, meaning that they care for their young by sucking them into their mouths. Cichlids are from a large fish family called cichlidae, which includes tilapia and angelfish. Whenever they reproduce, the male puts the fertilized eggs in his mouth, which is where they stay until hatching. This process is called mouth brooding. The male fish is unable to eat at this time. Sometimes the female fish will carry the fertilized eggs in her mouth, or the male and female will trade off. This is called biparental mouth brooding. Typically, fish that are born via mouth brooding are underweight at first and require recovery time to feed and grow. The cichlidae family is the largest of the freshwater fish families, with over 2,000 species. Not only are they colorful, but they are also easy to breed in. Those who capture them to breed say they require little or no effort, and their breeding cycle is one of the most entertaining in the animal kingdom. Males chase females relentlessly during the courting and try to lure them to a sandy spawning area or flat rock. If a female ignores the advances, he leaves her and chases her away. But if she responds and they go to the spawning area, the male will swim around in circles to entice her to lay eggs, and reproduction starts that way. Up next is the cuckoo catfish, which engages in cannibalism during its reproduction. This catfish uses a cichlid's mouth to harbor her eggs. She swims to the animal and lays her eggs in its mouth for it to carry. And while this is happening, the male cichlid dives in to fertilize what he presumes are the female cichlid's eggs, not knowing they are the cuckoo catfish's eggs. Because a cuckoo's egg grows and hatches faster than the cichlid's egg, the cuckoo's newborn often eats up the cichlid's eggs. If someone wants to breed this fish in captivity, I don't know, maybe he or she will look for cichlids to hold the eggs. We all know that female humans and animals use eggs to reproduce, but for these weird animals, the male carries the egg. As their name suggests, seahorses are unique in appearance with their horse-like head, prehensile tail, independently moving eyes, and brood pouch. They have long tubular snout and small toothless mouths. Their bodies are covered with consecutive rings of bony plates. The reproductive behavior of seahorses is notable in that the male carries the fertilized eggs. After an elaborate courtship, the female uses an egg duct to place her eggs into a brood pouch located at the base of the male's tail, where they are later fertilized. Depending on the species, the eggs remain in the pouch between 10 days and 6 weeks. During this time, the male nurtures the developing fetus by regulating the chemistry of the fluids inside the pouch, slowly transforming it from that of his internal body fluids to that of salt water as pregnancy progresses. To nourish the growing young, the male also produces inorganic compounds and releases the hormone prolactin, which helps break down the proteins contributed by the female. Once the eggs hatch, the male convulses his body and expels the young through a single opening in the pouch. The young are miniature versions of their parents that receive no further care. The male can receive another brood of eggs almost immediately after giving birth. In some species, a male and female will maintain a monogamous pair bond throughout the breeding season and produce many broods. More so, flatworms are another example of animals with terrifying reproduction. Flatworms are hermaphroditic. That is, they have both male and female sex organs, so they reproduce both sexually and asexually. The majority of sexual reproduction occurs through cross-fertilization, where both individuals fertilize each other. The fertilized eggs are frequently stored for some time within the flatworm and are either retained in the parent or laid as egg masses. Some freshwater flatworms produce special overwintering eggs, which are retained within the parent until spring. Asexual reproduction occurs under environmentally stressful conditions or when mating parents are scarce. This usually occurs by one of two methods. The first method is through budding. The buds grow out along the length of the parent's body, forming chains until they are ready to separate into new individuals. The second method is called transverse fission. The posterior half of the worm attaches itself to the substrate, while the anterior half continues to move forward until the two halves pull apart. Each half regenerates to form a complete worm. A few species can refragment themselves into several pieces, each of which regenerates to form several small worms. Flatworms get another option for reproduction, which is called penis fencing. It involves pushing their sperm into the exterior skin of another flatworm. This flatworm's lifespan is uncertain, but in captivity, members of one species live from 65 to 140 days. Finally, the last on our list is the spotted hyena's process of giving birth. Female hyenas have 3 times more testosterone than males, which results in a particular and risky labor process. Female hyenas give birth through their clitoris, also called the pseudopenis. The birth canal of a hyena is only about 1 inch across, and consequently, many hyena babies do not survive. Suffocation is a frequent occurrence for the cubs, as is the death of first-time hyena mothers. If you have watched this far, which animal's birth was the most terrifying to you? Let us know in the comments section. Kindly subscribe to our channel and click on the notification bell to see more of our videos. Thanks!